That's the wrong trick. The morning sun filtered through the tall arched windows of the Riverside Hotel's grand dining room, casting golden patterns across the polished marble floors. Marcus Chen sat at his usual corner table, reviewing a contract that would change everything. The document represented 6 months of negotiations, countless sleepless nights, and the future of his company. $200 million rested on the signatures that would be placed on these pages in less than an hour. Marcus had built Chen Technologies from nothing. 12 years ago, he was coding in a cramped apartment, surviving on instant noodles and determination. Now, at 34, he was the CEO of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in Seattle. This merger with Blackwell Industries would catapult them into the major leagues. Everything was riding on this meeting. He glanced at his watch. Jonathan Blackwell would arrive in 45 minutes. The coffee in front of Marcus had gone cold, but he barely noticed. His attention was fixed on the contract, mentally reviewing each clause, each term, each carefully negotiated detail. This had to be perfect. The dining room hummed with the quiet energy of morning. Business people scattered among the tables, voices kept respectfully low. Waiters moved like shadows, efficient and nearly invisible. Marcus appreciated the atmosphere. It was the kind of place where deals were made, where handshakes meant millions, where the right impression could make or break everything. "Excuse me, sir." The voice broke through his concentration. Marcus looked up to see a young woman standing beside his table. She wore the hotel's staff uniform, but something was different. Her name tag read Sarah, and unlike the seasoned waiters gliding through the room, she held herself with a tentative uncertainty that marked her as new. "Yes?" Marcus kept his tone neutral, already turning his attention back to the contract. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Sarah said, her voice steady despite visible nervousness. "I just started this morning, and they asked me to check on the guests. Can I get you anything?" "I'm fine, thank you," Marcus replied, barely looking up. His finger traced down the page, following the dense legal language that outlined stock transfers and asset allocations. Sarah didn't move away. Marcus could sense her hovering, and after a moment he raised his eyes again, unable to hide a flash of impatience. "Is there something else?" She hesitated, biting her lower lip. Then in a voice that was apologetic but firm, she said, "I noticed you've been looking at that contract for a while. And I probably shouldn't say anything, but—" She paused, seeming to gather courage. "That's the wrong trick," Marcus blinked. "Excuse me?" "The contract," Sarah said, her cheeks flushing pink but her gaze steady. "My father used to be a corporate lawyer before he passed away. He taught me to spot certain things. The way you keep going back to page 7, the way your expression changes when you read that middle section. You're trying to convince yourself something is acceptable when your instincts are telling you it's not. That's the wrong trick. You shouldn't have to convince yourself a good deal is good." For a long moment, Marcus simply stared at her. The audacity of this stranger, this new cashier or waitress or whatever she was, offering him business advice on the most important deal of his career was almost laughable. He felt a sharp retort forming on his lips, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the earnestness in her eyes. Maybe it was the fact that she was right. He had been returning to page 7 repeatedly, trying to rationalize a clause that bothered him. Maybe it was simply that her observation cut through the noise in his head and forced him to acknowledge what he'd been avoiding. Marcus looked down at the contract again, really looked at it this time, and felt a cold sensation in his stomach. Page 7 contained the intellectual property transfer clause. Blackwell Industries would gain access to Chen Technologies' core algorithms, the very foundation of everything they'd built. The lawyers had assured him it was standard, that the protections were adequate, that he was being overly cautious. But was he? What would your father have said? Marcus found himself asking. About this kind of clause. Sarah glanced around nervously, as if afraid her supervisor might appear and reprimand her for lingering at a guest's table. Then she leaned slightly closer, her voice dropping to just above a whisper. He used to say that in any negotiation, when you find yourself defending a term you don't like by saying, "It's probably fine," that's your signal to stop. Because you're not listening to yourself anymore. You're listening to everyone else. The lawyers, the advisors, the people who have their own interests. A good deal should feel right, not just look right on paper. Marcus sat back in his chair, the weight of her words settling over him like a heavy blanket. Around them, the dining room continued its morning rhythm, oblivious to the small earthquake happening at this corner table. "I should let you work," Sarah said, straightening up. "I'm sorry if I overstepped. It's my first day, and I'm probably going to get fired for bothering the guests." She offered a small, rueful smile. "But I'd rather be honest than smooth, you know." She turned to leave, but Marcus raised his hand. "Wait." Sarah looked back, surprise flickering across her face. "Thank you," Marcus said simply. "What's your full name?" "Sarah Mitchell." "Well, Sarah Mitchell, you just saved me from making a very expensive mistake." Marcus pulled out his phone and opened his calendar. "I need to make some calls. Can you do me a favor and let the front desk know that Mr. Blackwell's meeting is postponed? Tell them something urgent came up." Sarah's eyes widened. "Are you sure? I didn't mean to." "You were right," Marcus interrupted gently. "Sometimes we need someone outside the situation to tell us what we already know, but are afraid to admit. My company is built on innovation, on the work of people who believed in an idea when it was just code on a screen. I can't hand that away, no matter how attractive the deal looks." Over the next hour, Marcus made his calls. He reached his lawyers, his board members, his closest advisors. Some understood immediately. Others thought he was making a catastrophic error. By the time Jonathan Blackwell arrived, fashionably late as always, Marcus had made his decision. The conversation was tense but professional. Blackwell was not pleased about renegotiating at the last minute, but Marcus held firm. Either the intellectual property clause was revised to protect Chen Technologies' core assets, or there was no deal. They parted with uncertain handshakes and promises to have their teams review the concerns. A week later, a revised contract arrived. The protections Marcus had insisted upon were in place. The deal moved forward, but on terms that let him sleep at night. Chen Technologies merged with Blackwell Industries while maintaining control of the innovations that made them unique. 6 months after that, Marcus returned to the Riverside Hotel. He asked specifically for Sarah Mitchell. When she appeared, no longer nervous, but moving with the confidence of experience, he smiled. "I wanted to thank you properly," Marcus said. "That advice you gave me saved more than just a deal. It reminded me why I started this company in the first place. Would you be interested in a position at Chen Technologies? We could use someone who understands that integrity matters more than convenience." Sarah looked at him for a long moment, then smiled. "Mr. Chen, I appreciate that, but I'm starting law school next month. Following in my father's footsteps finally. Then let me know when you graduate," Marcus replied. "We'll always need good lawyers who aren't afraid to tell their clients the truth." As Marcus left the hotel that day, he realized that the most valuable deals aren't always measured in dollars. Sometimes they're measured in the wisdom to listen when a stranger offers truth, in the courage to step back from the precipice, and in the understanding that success means nothing if you lose yourself to achieve it. The contract had been worth $200 million. But honesty, it turned out, was priceless.